Welcome to Talksicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Conrádo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Conrádo Cosmico?
Conrádo Cosmico. Yeah.
Conrádo Cosmico.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through a name change just recently.
Okay.
And I thought if I was going to change my first name, I might as well go for a rock star last name. So
You have to.
yeah.
I mean, you can't have, some... I mean, I guess we don't have to go into what your previous name was because you're trying to get away from that.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. You know, it's like the world is my stage, so why not have a stage name?
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
The world is a stage. Be a light,
That's right.
as I hear
That's right.
some people say.
Yes.
So Cosmico... No, so you could just do Cosmico.
Well, a lot of people are calling me Cosme for sure.
Cosme's good.
What else? Connie. I'm getting a lot of Connies. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But I love a good nickname. So if you want to give me a moniker and we can just stick with
Keep it. I really think that you should work for get the new one going for a little while.
Okay, Conrádo.
But then make it just one. You have to have just the one name.
Everyone's already way confused. So if I do this again, they're going to be like,
keep them guessing. Don't let them know your next move.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a good way to go about things. But pleasure to have you here, man. We met earlier this year at South by Southwest during I was speaking at a panel that the Sims Foundation was awesome enough to put on.
Yeah.
And you are part of said Sims Foundation.
Yeah, I'm the director of operations at Sims Foundation.
Tell everybody out there, what is the Sims Foundation?
The Sims Foundation has been around for about 29 years. Next year will be our 30th year. And we provide mental health and recovery resources for musicians in Central Texas. Well, basically all of Texas now. But that's it in a brief synopsis. We really match creatives, music performers, music industry professionals and their families with counselors. And if they need a little bit of extra care, a little bit more triage, or if they're wanting to go into, rehab or recovery or treatment center, we match them with local facilities around town, like Recovery Unplugged, and other facilities to help them get where they need to go in their journey.
Yeah, I know that our organizations have been working together for a while, so it was nice to meet y'all out there at the South by Southwest panel, and I got to meet you and the team, Marissa,
Caitlin, and myself were out there. I think Lee showed up for a bit, but yeah, that was a good panel too.
It really was. We had Hillary from Backline there. We had some local musicians, and it was just we had a really good conversation going, and made a lot of really good contacts out there, and it was awesome to meet you too. So,
yeah, that was the beginning of a great relationship. But you also stopped by Sober Space that year. I ran Sober Space every night at South by in the Hilton, and it was a place where we facilitated kind of open meetings for everybody at South by. So we had people from all over the world come in and talk about their recovery, and some people decided to start their journey at Sober Space. We celebrated a lot of recovery birthdays and, clean times, and it was amazing.
That was awesome. That was one of my highlights. Like, those are my two highlights. So you were
there we go.
You were present at both of my highlights for South by this past year, and hopefully I know we're working on some stuff for ACL coming up, and then for South by for next year.
That's right.
We're trying to panel. So yeah, man, this is I love meeting people who, our visions are aligned, and we're just trying to do the next right thing for more and more people. And I'm glad to have you on here. And
thank you,
man. So Sims Foundation last Tuesday, which was, what was the date last Tuesday? Because I don't know when this is going to go.
That was last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. It was the 6th, I think. August 6th would it have been? Yeah. Elliott Smith would have turned 55.
Man.
And I guess every year y'all put on an Elliott Smith tribute show.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I had the best time. Me and my now fiance went out there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Our relationship was very much forged on our mutual love for Elliott Smith. So
oh, wow.
It was very fitting that we could go because we realized as we're there, like we never get to hear Elliott Smith songs performed live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was late on the Elliott Smith train and hung outside like when he was playing in Atlanta at one time. And I very distinctly remembered like, I should go in and check that out. But I was too cool. You know what I mean? I was very much, I was probably coked out of my mind. And just running from bar to bar in like East Atlanta and just wanting to get fucked up. And I definitely remember passing it by and just being like, I should go in here. And then years later, once I really fell in love with this music, I was just like, damn it, fucker.
Yeah. I have some of those stories too, of like amazing shows that I missed because I was either too fucked up or too distracted or too hardcore.
That's it, man. So what were some of the shows that you were too hardcore to miss?
Oh, too hardcore.
Too hardcore to go in, because I very much have.
Oh gosh,
some winner.
Yeah, I'm not ready for this conversation. Let me think this through. Well, so this is kind of sad and silly, but it plays to where I was thinking back then. But the Beastie Boys, right, played South by under a different name in a small club in 1998 or 9, and I was like, nah, the Beastie Boys. Everybody loves the Beastie Boys. You know, like I wanted like the gritty stuff,
right?
Know? And now I'm like, dude, I could have seen the Beastie Boys in a small club on 6th Street. Nobody, well, there were some people that knew about it, but you know, to be able to see the Beastie Boys performing under a different name, and I don't know, that was classic Beastie Boys timing. You know?
Yeah,
and now I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, so
and I never got to see them. So
heartbreak of mine is
heartbreak.
I stood outside of a Replacement show.
Oh.
And Replacements is now definitely one of my favorite bands of all, and has been for a long time. But I mean, this is 88, 89.
Yeah.
I was, 14, 15-year-old little hardcore kid who just like, these guys are too soft for me to like, and I didn't know, I hadn't, I was 15. So I didn't realize how angsty and cool they were. And I probably hadn't even heard any of their music, but that one always gets me. Anytime I hear of like live shows, like, man, if I just would have walked in.
Dude, I was right outside for Radiohead when they were playing Deep Ellum in Dallas in like 96 or 97. Wow. And I was just like, oh, this is, this isn't for me. I don't want to go in with you guys. All my friends went and I was just like, nah,
yeah,
I'm too cool for this, which is crazy.
One of the times I did go into a show though, and it changed my perspective on things, was The Fall. And again, I was probably like 15 years old, little like punk rock, shaved head, skinhead kid, skater kid, whatever I was into at the moment.
Yeah.
And my friend was just like, man, there's a bunch of really cute girls going in there. So like, we're like, okay, let's go in. So we go into the show, and, Marky Smith, who is singer of The Fall, is just some little snooty English guy, and he's playing. And I didn't really, I always liked weird music. My stepfather instilled a love of weird music into me, because he was a record engineer and producer, and he worked with bands like Styx and Ohio Players.
Oh, wow.
But in his record collection, he was listening to things like the Silver Apples and Vanilla Fudge and all this really weird shit. A lot of like Moog synthesizer albums. Okay. So from a young age, I was really kind of taught that music didn't really have to have these boundaries to it, But then I was too punk rock for everything. So that was my way. That was my way of rebelling against my cool parents, But yeah, that was one time that I really went into a show, not really caring about like, I knew the music wasn't going to be what I was into at the time, but it really transformed the way I looked at like how somebody can just own a stage. Like Marky Smith just ran that place, and everybody was just, the energy of it was definitely memorable. So that's one of the things that I hanging outside of punk clubs, you really get to learn some new and interesting things.
It's very true. When I was growing up in El Paso, I used to sell merch for At the Drive-In outside of their shows. I never actually got to go in, I think, very often. I was just outside talking to the crowd, talking to all my friends.
Right.
And the punk scene in El Paso was interesting because it was low key. We wanted to be hard, but I don't think any of us really were, but we did, or at least I learned or fine-tuned my drug use in El Paso with that, just like living right on the border. Everything was readily available.
I can imagine.
And dude, the party was never ending.
So yeah, let's go into that a little bit. Well, you grew up in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your formative years. And
El Paso itself, the city is still like a beautiful piece of my history, right? I love that city and I love who I became out of that city. But yeah, back in the day in the early 90s, going over to Mexico was super easy. And so, I was going over to Mexico when I was 13 and paying $7 at a bar. We would go to these things called drink and drowns. And so it was me and all my friends going over the bridge and, drinking probably shit liquor, but tons of it, and then walking back and driving back to our homes, at 2:00 in the morning.
And you were paying $7?
$7
for like an all you could drink.
All you
thing?
can drink. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You could get like buckets of beer, and there were these shots called cucarachas that they would light on fire, all this stupid shit. But as a kid and being, 13 and 14, it was like, this is fucking rad.
Right.
I didn't realize until much later in my life that I was fine-tuning addiction skills very early on, and it took a long time for me to get out of that. A lot of my friends from that time are either still heavy drinkers or hopefully are on their own recovery journey, but I've lost a lot of them too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a common thread with, people who started partying and early or hitting the scene.
And, when I... the end of my time in El Paso, I was living in this apartment, and it was called the Sugar Shack. It was like a stop in the because this is before the internet, right? I'm pretty old, as you can see. But
how old are you?
47.
Okay, I got a couple of years on you.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
No, I figured you were younger than me for some reason. I don't know why.
Going to be 50 on October 4th.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you.
So I was living in this place called the Sugar Shack, and it was a stop that was well known for people that was doing the Rainbow Gathering and for the punk rock scene, for underground touring bands. And so people would come through El Paso, stop there, stay at our apartment.
It was the punk house.
It was the punk house.
Yeah.
And the party house. And so, there was a lot of illicit stuff going on. There was a lot of drugs going through that place. At the time, I thought it was like a romantic kind of poetic place to be.
At the time, and I'm sure in retrospect too, because not a lot of people get to experience that. Like, I never lived in a punk house, but I definitely slept on the couches or slept on the floor or went through them or just went to a ton of shows at them because, especially growing up when we did, all ages shows weren't always readily available. Smaller punk venues weren't always available. So in, college towns and bigger cities, you would always find these things we'd call like the punk houses or skate houses or whatever. And it was just usually one house owned by some kid or rented out where you had 4 or 5 bedrooms and up to 10 to 12 people calling that place their home, plus whoever was coming in through town or traveling. It was always a couch that a band could sleep at. It was a fixture. Like, bands would even just go there, take showers, and be it was sort of like a I don't know what to call it. Just a conduit for these people who were traveling on, shoestring budgets at best.
A creative station.
Yeah. There we go. A creative station.
No. But yeah, there was another house like that in Lubbock that I spent a little bit of time in. And there was this guy that, I don't know if he owned it or if he was renting it. His name was Jamie. a lot of crazy, bands that I looked up to stayed there. Up Ivy stayed there like a week before I got there, and I was just like foaming at the mouth. I was like, oh my God, I didn't get to meet those guys.
Wow. That's
that house was even cooler and a little bit crazier than the Sugar Shack. But yeah, Texas back in the day had I'm sure it still does, but it was different back then. Like we didn't have the internet, so you found out about these things through flyers. And I wish I still had all those flyers. Do you have some flyers from back in the day?
No, we had growing up in South Florida, a lot of flooding. So most of my childhood photos,
you don't get time to
and memorabilia and all that stuff, and plus just years of living out of garbage bags. I kind of lost all that stuff. But I have some good friends who I would call them archivists of back then, who still have every zine, every sticker, all that stuff. So I have access to it all, but I myself, I don't have any of it, unfortunately.
I was always just fascinated with the art and how those came about. And I always wanted to be like a poster designer for a long time. I never did it, but I'm just fascinated with, what's the word? Ephemera like that. Anyways, I have a large collection now of old school stuff.
Oh, that's awesome though, because I mean, those days, like to mail order a zine and get it from you heard about some zine or a band was traveling through and were trading stuff or handing stuff out with their friends' stuff, and you would get the address, you would send it in. A month or so later, you'd get a zine from a city you've never been to, and all of a sudden you're like immersed in this other culture.
Yeah, and you felt connected.
Yeah, and it was a means of communication back then. Mm-hmm. Like I just recently read Kathleen Hanna's book from Bikini Kill, and she was talking about how the early Riot Grrrl zine started, and it was very much just like that. Like bands would go on tour, they would pass the zines out to girls at the show, and then they started this whole underground movement, which became just huge, and all these amazing bands came out of this small movement, and a lot of them would never have heard of each other or connected with each other if it weren't for these little zines and showcases and things like that. And then she did this thing that I thought was really cool and interesting, is she would tell people, if you go to a show where I think they were stickers of like stars or hearts or something like that, like on your face or on your hand, so then if you see somebody else with it, you automatically know like, oh, this person is involved with this. Sort of like if you see somebody with an NA key tag, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
kind of like,
oh, what's up?
I know.
Yeah,
okay.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but stuff. I get so nostalgic when I look back and talk about stuff like that. We had Cody Cohen, who was the Do you know Cody?
I know of him.
Okay,
we probably worked together somewhere along the way.
I'm sure you guys did, being from
South by.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was on, and him and I, we became fast friends on the Zoom work meeting just because we're like, oh, hey, I was wearing like a No Comply shirt or something, and had a New York City hardcore poster behind me, and then him and I just instantly became friends. And then when he came on, we started talking about like Another State of Mind, the old Social Distortion and Youth Brigade documentary. And I think the tour was in like 1980, and it shows Social Distortion and Youth Brigade, and they go from Southern California through Canada and then the East Coast, and then end up at like the Discord House. Oh my God. Back to the punk houses. Like, wow. Discord House was probably the mecca of it all, which was in Washington, D.C., and this was the house where Ian MacKaye of Minor Threat and then started Discord Records and all that. And that place is just, I wonder if it's a historical landmark.
It should be.
It definitely should be.
Yeah. We need to Google that.
Yeah, we need a road trip.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. So anyway, El Paso was a raucous scene for me. It allowed me to kind of get to know myself in a way that I wasn't allowed to. I grew up Baptist. I was definitely the rebel. Growing up gay was also very difficult at that time. And so figuring all that out and then leaving and coming to Austin, Austin was like the Mecca.
And how old were you when you came to Austin?
19.
Oh, wow. Okay.
19 or 20. Yeah.
Were you open?
I mean, I think everybody knew, I don't do a good job of hiding it, but, but yeah, I think by that time I was pretty much out. I wasn't out to my family. I did come out to my mom when I was living in Austin in Hyde Park back in the day, but, yeah, that rave culture was also starting to happen at that time. So there was a lot of like underground raves that I went to in Austin. Ecstasy was legal at that point.
Legal?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there was a couple of years where ecstasy wasn't illegal. Yeah, Austin, back in the day, that was like Slacker Central. There was a lot of heavy creativity going on. The film department, the film school at UT had a lot of amazing people in at that time. My roomie was in that class, and
wasn't that what, like Richard Linklater?
Yeah, Linklater and all those. So it was. I've had a really beautiful life when I think back on it, but man, there are so many instances where it could have gone so fucking wrong.
Yeah,
and I'm very glad that I'm still here. It took me a long time to figure out what made sense to me and like what I was doing incorrectly. And so I used and drank for well over 30 years.
Yeah. So coming from the sort of party lifestyle, and when you're in a youth culture and it seems like everybody's having a great time and it's very positive and people could handle drinking and partying.
Sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what a time to be alive when you're doing stuff like this. But at what point was it like, I'm not doing this like the rest of my friends are, or I'm not, there's something different about the way that I'm seeking this out as opposed to the way these people are seeking this out?
Well, I didn't really fully understand it until that I knew that there was a huge problem until much later in my life, early 40s. But
okay.
Now that I look back, there are definitely, markers where I'm like, oh, I would disappear for a couple of days, or I was always blacking out. I was also, searching for a unique viewpoint with psychedelics and trying to get outside myself because I didn't love myself.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that going on, but it didn't really present as a huge problem until my 40s when I realized that, I had a very high profile professional job, advocating for the queer community here in Austin. And I was suffering from a sense of
imposter
syndrome. Yeah. And my using was starting to get tied up with my identity and my self-value. And I wasn't able to fake it anymore. Up until that point, I had been able to go to work, party all weekend, maybe not get any sleep, and show up and be effervescent and cool and have a ton of moxie and make everybody laugh.
We're talking natural moxie or a bag full of moxie?
I don't know how much of it was natural. But when I got that job, I slowly started to realize that there was some fucked up things going on in my head, and that what I was doing, I wasn't fooling anybody. I wasn't fooling myself anymore, and it got real dark for me for a bit. And I thought for a long time that it was because of the job, that it didn't have anything to do with, chemicals or drinking. But that was the root cause of it, was that I was trying to mask my problems with my self-worth and not wanting to take a deeper look into myself. So
the struggle
it's getting heavy in here.
It is. Yeah. Good. No, I like it. Because the struggle of a functioning addict or alcoholic, in my opinion, just because I don't think I ever have been one, I could either do drugs or other stuff. I could never do
both of them.
Never really figured that one out. But a lot of the people who I know who were high functioning in their active addiction and alcoholism, it just seems like so much work because you're priding yourself on being the functional addict or alcoholic. And then it seems like you're almost just trying to build this persona around that to tell yourself like, well, listen, I'm not like these people because I have a job.
Right.
I have money in the bank. I'm paying my bills on time, but I'm disappearing for 3 or 4 days at a time.
Right.
Like, am I entitled to this? Is this just who I am? Am I on this cosmic search for something else? You know, so there's this huge pressure that comes along with that.
Totally.
It feels the same, right? It feels the same, this world that you're trying to protect, as opposed to me, who's like, I'm robbing people and, you know, living a life of crime to nickel and dime to keep my addiction going. And then when you start going to meetings and meeting other people, and then you start talking to people, you're like, holy shit, we had nothing in common as far as what our everyday life was like. But when it came to this thing that we're trying to cover up, whatever we're trying to keep feeding with alcohol and drugs, it's like, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
I think that's when a big weight gets lifted off, when you stop looking for the differences and you start looking for the similarities in other people's story, and then you realize like these people are all like me. But it's just we just come from different walks of life, and it's all windows to the same house.
Totally.
You know, that's why I still regularly attend meetings, and sometimes more regularly than others. But you know, whenever I go to a good meeting, like the meeting I was just telling you about that I went to last night, and it was an NA meeting out in Maynard, Texas, and it was great. It was just like, you know, people who I had never seen before out here, and you know, it was a open meeting. A lot of treatment vans were there, so a lot of newcomers and people celebrating like 9 days, 30 days, 60 days. And then, you know, you got the guys in the back who are sharing, who have 30 years, and they're still talking about, you know, how unmanageable their lives can still be. And it's it's an amazing feeling, you know.
When I got into NA in 2022, I felt like I had well, first I was like, what the fuck is going on? This cult is fucking crazy.
They are.
It's not a cult. But, you know, I did find a group of guys and a community that I had a lot in common with. And just like you said, and it wasn't all about that we came from the same place. It was that we were all dealing with the fact of learning how to survive in this world and find our light and to love ourselves, right? And, you know, I know there are so many different pathways for recovery, and I'm not espousing NA as the best, but it really has worked for me.
Yeah.
Those old timers have such amazing stories. It's also kind of like shut the fuck up sometimes, you know, but you know, I'm super blessed to have a sponsor who's got well over 20 years
right
clean, and to be able to kind of text him whenever I need something, and to hear advice or a viewpoint that I wouldn't have even thought of, right? Man, it's undeniable how powerful that is.
Yeah, it really is.
It's crazy. For the longest time, I remember, going back to El Paso, I remember growing up in the church, and there was I don't know if it was AA or there was a 12-step meeting that happened in that church, but they were all bikers, and my mom worked there. So a lot of the times I'd go in to when she was getting off work, and those guys would be coming out of the meeting, and I was so scared of them. And you know, my mom was like, don't talk to them, you know. And now I'm one of those guys.
What was your perception of like this meeting of bikers coming out? Were you like, is this a biker meeting? Is this like
you know, I think when I was younger, I was like, are they in jail? You're like, what's going on? Is the church helping them? You know, I also didn't. I felt like they were like less than me, you know, and that's really how it was kind of ingrained in my upbringing that addiction wasn't a disease. You know, there was definitely something flawed with those people, and there wasn't anything that could really help them. And, you know, they were, you know, destitute, demonic, you know, evil people.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. I sometimes refer to myself as a clean demon, right. You know, like, but that's a joke. But, yeah, you know, like, it's weird how when you grow up in a community and a family that like doesn't believe in mental health resources, although it was the 90s, and I don't know if many people grew up believing in that.
Right.
But I think that's what kept me for a long time not wanting to admit that I was an addict, and that it was something that was out of my control, because I didn't want to have that mental incapacity. I didn't want to be weak, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It kept me from seeking help when I could have a long time ago. But I'm here now.
You are here now.
Yeah. Yeah. And doing good shit. We're doing good shit together, too.
We are doing good shit together.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this. Because I hear, I always heard like it's harder to make friends when you're older and stuff like that. And I was 47 when I moved to Austin in 2020, and I have such an awesome life here. I have such cool friends, and I continue to meet cool people. And it's always like, I also have the gift of skateboarding, which keeps it kind of skateboarding and meetings. Both places are your tribe or whatever you want to call it. When I moved out here and started skating at like House Park and met all the people who I hang out with every week now, it was great because I had used in Florida for so long that I just felt like there was like a film. The film was over me. It wasn't over Florida, but I had just lived there through so much of my active addiction, and I talk about this all the time that I still have using dreams almost every night, if not almost every night. Wow. 8 years clean now, and still every night I have the dream. I'm still out there.
Oh God.
I either just robbed somebody and they're looking for me, or I'm about to get dope sick and I can't find something. And it's never like the euphoric, like, oh, this is great, I got something. It brings me back to the griminess, which is, my sponsor and I have talked about it quite a bit. Because after a few years, and I realized that they weren't going away, like I almost like wake up. It's nice because I wake up with the gratitude of like oh my God, I'm in the house that I own in Austin. Here's my beautiful fiance and our 2 dogs and the great life that I have. So it's
wow.
I've turned my perspective on it around to be like, just remember that you could go back to that any fucking time, like Because with 8 years clean now in the life that I've put together, I think that if I decided to go back out, let's take away fentanyl out of the equation, that I would probably overdose and die like my first go around, because I was an opiate addict, and from what I'm understanding, it's like you can't even really get what I was using anymore. So. Yeah. But I think I could go for maybe like 3 weeks before I could ruin it all and be back into that situation again where it's just
3 weeks. You give yourself 3 weeks.
I think I could have a good 3 weeks before I'm back there.
All right. Man, well, I'm glad that you're not going to do that.
Yeah, not today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the fentanyls and everything. Yeah, I have some history with that.
Yeah,
we used to slap those patches on.
Oh yeah, but that's different. So that is, and I don't know how many people know this or not, but when you hear fentanyl, it's not the patches that you're getting on the street. You're not. No, you're getting this manufactured. Usually, I mean, they have so many different derivatives of it now. Car fentanyl, and I don't know what all the other ones are, but you're not getting the medical grade fentanyl that you would get. Because I mean, I used to get the patches and freeze them, or with the shaver and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's way different than
dude. I'm not sure if I would last 3 weeks. Honestly. Yeah, it would not go good for me. But
right.
Whew. So skateboarding, right? Back in the day, my parents bought me a Tony Hawk skateboard. It was neon orange. It was super cool. And I went to school and I thought I was going to be the coolest guy in the world. And there was this, they called themselves a gang. This was like 6th grade. Okay. But it was a skateboard gang.
Oh, that's so cool.
And in order to get into the gang, you had to do a trick over this crazy, like huge kind of pit in our, elementary school or whatever. And so all the guys during lunch one day, they called me out there because I really wanted to be in this gang. And they're like,
do you remember the name?
I don't.
Oh,
I wish.
Make one up.
I don't know.
The Junior Daggers.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, they all had ninja stars too. That was they were bringing those ninja stars to school.
You were hanging with the bad kids.
Well, it's like that's perfect on brand for me. So they were like, okay, you got to flip over this sand pit, but it was like covered on rocks with both sides. She's like, so take a running start, flip, and if you make it to the other side, you're in the gang. And I was
like a kick flip, like the board has to kick flip, or you have to physically.
I have to physically fit. We didn't have our boards. We were just.
Oh, okay. They went on the skateboard.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us bring the boards into the school.
So you have to do a non-skateboarding trick.
Yeah, because we were kids. We're like being scientific.
But it shows your heart.
Yeah, yeah. The daredevil heart.
Your willingness to do whatever it takes.
So I do it, and of course I don't make this fucking thing, and I wipe out so hard. I land on my chest and my face. All the guys are like, "Oh fuck," but they let me in because I wiped out.
Because you tried it.
Yeah. And
I could I'm picturing little
God. I can still feel
it. And they're giving you your vest with the patch on the back of it with the skull.
Yeah, no.
You've made it.
Well, the gang quickly got disbarred after that because some guys got caught with their ninja stars. But man, it's so silly, so silly. But tell me more now. Like you were telling me before the show that you're working with skateboarding and MBA.
Oh yeah, so we're working on an event out in Miami, Lot 11 Skate Park, which is downtown Miami.
Okay.
One of my best friends growing up, Jason Ramft, actually designed and built the park. Good friend Joel Meinholtz is a staple in the skateboarding scene in Miami. So, him and I were talking about doing an event out there just to raise awareness for mental health. And then I've been talking to some, I started working with the Kevin Love Fund, which Kevin Love, he's on the Miami Heat, and he has a nonprofit called the Kevin Love Fund, who raises awareness and does events to raise awareness for mental health. So the skate park and where the Miami Heat play are like a mile from each other. So we started putting together the idea, and then I got in touch with some people at the Kevin Love Fund, and they said that, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So now we're trying to build it. We were aiming for September 24, but that the whole getting everything together took a little bit more work than we had thought, which is fine. Like, I'm not scared of the hard work, but it was just, we didn't think it's enough time to get it done before preseason. So we're taking a little bit more time on it. And by the time this comes out, things will be more solidified. But Vin Baker, who is a NBA legend, now is one of the coaches for the Milwaukee Bucks, is friends with the CEO of Recovery Unplugged and one of my coworkers, Dr. Barry Ryman. They're all pretty close together. He wrote a book recently, or a couple of years back, that was God in Starbucks, I believe it was called. So he went through, he went through the party lifestyle, got way too in over his head, and then kind of lost everything, And I mean, he was, I think, 8th NBA draft pick or something like that when he was at his peak, and lost everything. Was playing for the Seattle Supersonics at the time. So called then one of the owners, who was also the CEO of Starbucks at the time, and said like, hey, I'm struggling. Can you get a job? And from what he was telling me, he was expecting some cushy office job and stuff like that. And I was like, no, you could be a barista.
Oh shit.
And set him up with a barista job at Starbucks. So anyway, they're working on a documentary for him, and he's been calling me and consulting with me on how to, tell the story that he wants to tell. So working with him, and these things have all just come together. And I told him about the project, and he thought it was something that was on brand for him. But he is in where are the Olympics right now? France? Is that where?
Paris?
Paris, yeah. So he's in Paris right now, coaching.
Where are the Olympics?
Yeah, not a huge sports fan, but no. So when I met with him, when I met with Vin, and I was telling him, because he's telling me about all these people who he works with, and I'm like, I'm sure that's very impressive, and like I don't know who these people are. Like I've never been to a basketball game in my life, and he was kind of like, well, this is good because I don't want this documentary to be just for basketball fans, because he's like, these people already know my story, or at least good parts of it. So he wants to tell this story, and it's we're working together and doing it, man. And it's one of those things that it's kind of it was a whirlwind when it fell on my lap, because it was within like a day of, my boss telling me like, hey, this guy wants to talk to you about, he's getting a documentary. And I told him you're a guy to talk to him, like, having me lay out a plan for him. And I was like, yeah, so when, you pitched this to the film company that's putting it together. And he was like, no, when we pitch it. And I was just like, okay. Like, so let's knock on wood here that I'm not like getting ahead of myself. But, we've talked quite a few times, and it seems like a pretty cool thing.
It's so amazing every time I talk with you, you're up to something new, right?
Ryan, yeah.
And I want to ask, like, do you still get imposter syndrome? Because like all the cool shit that you're working on, yes. I would be like, what? You want me to do what?
I do.
How do you deal with it? Like, what's your trick? Teach me something.
Fetal position under my desk and just a blanket over my head. It's
I'm doing it right then.
Yeah. So if that's what you're doing, you're spot on. But it's so I know I told you about the Elsewhere program that we're working on for touring musicians, and we're going on a major tour starting in like a week and a half with a client who's major tour, and it's going to be for a few months, and things are starting to materialize now after months and months of planning. And the last month, I know I told you that I was in Florida pretty much for most of July, has been doing the stuff that scares the shit out of me, the business projections, the spreadsheets, the stuff that is just completely not in my wheelhouse. So, but now I have the confidence to tell people, like, I have no idea what any of this is. Like, I need some help, like, putting this stuff together. And luckily, that they're putting me together with the right people to help me through some of this stuff, and to help me not just do it for me, but to help me understand a little bit so I could, grow, and to have people that believe in me and the vision that I have, and, think that, because I mean, I've always had tons of ideas, but I never did anything about them. And then it's just things that I've learned in 12-step is like, just do the work and things will start happening. So I made a vow to, my fiance a few years ago, and I was like, 50 is going to be my year. Like, I don't know what it is. And it's an odd thing. Her and I, when we started dating, we had nothing. Like, one of our first dates, she said that she was hungry because, she was living in sober living, and didn't have any food. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. So I'm like, let's go. I was like, I'll get you like a slice of pizza or something. So we pull up to this pizza spot. I have my little 1999 blue Volkswagen Beetle that's barely running. And, it turned out to be a nicer pizza place than I thought it would be. So I overdrafted buying her a pizza. And that's part of our story. But all the things that I had, with totally pure intentions, had told her have come to be. So she helped me when I went back to school and really supported me, let me use her laptop when I was going back to school for video and film, and just has always really stood behind me. And, she never thought that we'd be able to get out of Florida and living in crappy apartments and stuff like that. And, I told her, I was like, no, I'm going to work, and we'll get out of Florida. And we made it out to Texas, and now we own a home here in Austin. So it seems like all these things that I've made, I sort of promised more to myself than anything. Like, I really want to do this. Because when I got clean, I had nothing. Like, I had absolutely nothing. I went into treatment, had no bank account, had no driver's license, nothing like that. No foreseeable path to a future. But what I did have was an opportunity to move forward, because I didn't want to go back. You know what I mean? It really was one of those, like, I came struggle. It had been 7 years since I went to my first meeting to when I ultimately got clean, you know? So I knew that a better life was out there. I knew people who used like I used had put together better lives. And what I saw more with people that I had known from the streets were that they had changed who they were by the way they carried themselves and all that. And not necessarily like the financial things or anything like that, but just, you know, people who I knew who were not always nice people and not always people who you wanted to be around, become people who were like, who when I was struggling, I was like, hey man, like, I heard you got your shit together somehow or changed things, like, you know, and that was the first thing that, when I first asked my friend, his name's Kirk, and you know, he was the first person who I called, who I'd known had gotten clean and is still clean to this day. And, you know, he took me to my first NA meeting and there was people that I knew there, you know, and people who I saw and I was just like, oh shit, this is crazy. Like, that's why, you know, that's why you're doing better these days. Okay. So, you know, I had people who came before me who showed me that it's possible. And once I started, because I was the king of starting things and never finishing them. Yeah, like learning that I could do things was a huge part of my recovery, and being able to finish things that I start, or at least see them through. Not necessarily finish, but like if I'm going to do something, like put it out there. So, yeah, man, 50 is I now I'm publicly saying it here that 50 is going to be the year that you know that and listen, every year that I've been clean has been better than the previous. 2020 was a little rough, but I mean, 2020 was rough for everyone. So.
Yeah. Well, you came to Austin in 2020, right? And I've heard, I wasn't in NA at that point, but I have heard that it was really, really rough doing those virtual meetings all the time. The sense of community was like at an all-time low.
Yeah, I don't think I attended one virtual meeting because I am such an in-person
me too
kind of guy. Like,
I can't do the virtual stuff.
No, it just felt like a work Zoom meeting for me. And you know, I just never grasped onto that. And you know, I stayed close to my recovery friends, and skateboarding really helped. And you know,
I wish that I had kept on my skateboard. You know, I'd be in better shape for sure. or maybe like more my knees might hurt a little bit more, but man,
my friend John Miller just opened up in Leander called the Skate Gym.
Okay.
And it is for all levels.
Whoa.
And you could go there. They actually have an adult beginners class. So if you think that you've made it back to the beginners place, it really is. It's a cool spot. I haven't been there yet, but he's a great guy. And it's
I'll go if you catch it on camera because it will be highly comical.
You know what? We'll make it a bit out of it. We'll do it.
All right.
We'll make that plan.
All right.
So let's talk about. Well, we're running out of time here. So let's get you clean. How'd you ultimately find your way?
Yeah. All right. So my friend Joseph, who has been in AA for a long time, I called him at my darkest moment. And he was like, I'm coming over. He came over to my house, made me throw away all my drugs. And then he was like, where's the rest of them? And I was like, I don't have any more. He's like, yeah, right. And we got the secret stash. And then he took me to a men's meeting here in town. And I kept going, it took a while for it to really stick.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up doing an IOP at Recovery Unplugged, which really, really put things into perspective and allowed me the time that I really needed to ask the tough questions and really to just be like, if I'm fucking serious about this, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah.
Right. And Recovery Unplugged here in Austin, I mean, I can't say enough good things about it, and the people there. But yeah, so once I did the IOP, it propelled me into a new frame of mind. And I don't do anything or try not to do anything half-assed anymore.
Right.
So I immediately became more ingrained in the recovery community. I'm service-oriented. So I recently joined the board for Recovery ATX. I try to keep pretty much all the pathways in my life centered in recovery somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That really, really helps me. And it helps me be a productive member of the society, of the community here in town, but it gives me a sense of purpose. My ego likes to be fulfilled like everybody else's, but I really want to make sure that I'm doing good shit with myself and that I'm not doing it just to say that to make myself feel better because I'm doing something cool.
Right.
Because a lot of my profession up until that point had been built on having the coolest ass job. Like I worked at South by for years and years, being in the music community, all that bullshit. Right. So now, like working at Sims and doing what I do while the director of operations isn't a sexy job, it's the job that keeps everything going.
Right.
And I get to wake up every day and know that the work that I'm doing is helping a ton of musicians, a ton of my friends, a ton of the people that I call my family through really hard times, and it's saved a bunch of their lives, right? Joining the board of Recovery ATX, I get to continue my journey being clean, and it gives me a new opportunity to understand what that means to me, where I'm going. I don't know what my clean time is going to look like in a year from now, but I know it's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Right. It ignites me, and I think you can see it. I feel like I'm getting on my soapbox right now.
Good, man. No.
I being clean and being able to wake up every day and know that I'm there for my husband, who requires a little bit of extra care. I'm a caregiver too.
Right.
That I'm giving him everything that he needs because I'm giving everything that I need for myself. Right. He's getting a version of me that he's never seen.
That's cool.
Which means that the love that I'm giving him is even greater love than I already had for him, right? That's amazing. Loving myself just as much as I love him, it's intense, right? And I can't believe that I spent so many years of my life listening to that voice in my head that said that I wasn't worth shit, or that all those things.
Right.
So yeah, getting clean, living in Austin, and still living the dream. I mean, dude. That's a fucking gratefulness package right there.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I could see it in your face, man. Like I love it when somebody talks about, the where they're at now, and it's just it's uplifting and it helps me, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, well when you don't live in the dark anymore, it's amazing living in the light.
It is.
And being who you are.
So we have our little rapid fire question time now.
Oh shit. Okay.
It's rapid fire question time.
What is one band that I would be surprised that you do not like?
The Beatles.
Beatles? I am surprised. You don't get that very often.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay.
It's going to go down in flames. People are not going to like me after that. But, yeah.
All right. Supernatural experience? Ever have one? UFOs? Bigfoot?
All of them.
What? You pick the best.
Okay. I was driving through West Texas. I think I was maybe 18 or 19. The car that I was in, I was sleeping in it. It was very late at night. They slammed on their brakes. I rolled into the foot carriage. Both my friends jumped out. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I get outside the car. We're in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, skies, stars everywhere. And I look up and there's just this empty section of night sky, no stars, in the shape of this really weird triangle, but almost like the size of a football field.
Oh.
And there are 100 cows right next to us, and they're mooing so loud. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Fire in the Sky had just come out, again, showing my age.
Right.
So I start yelling, fire in the sky, we got to get out of here. And my friends are like, what the fuck is that? And it's getting lower and lower and lower to where you could feel like the compaction of the air around
It's a shared experience, though. You and other people have
me and two other people. And finally, I get them to go back in the car, and we get into Marfa, I think. And, we run into the first gas station, and the guy's like, it was a weather balloon.
And Marfa, too? Come on.
Yeah,
they should know better.
I know. But, man, that alien experience was crazy, but I have several other stories.
All right. Well, next time we have you on, we'll go into
I love shit like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
We'll talk after.
All right.
All right. This is, you hear that, Joseph? The truth is out there. I want to believe. So, this is Joseph's favorite question,
okay.
which I like too.
All
Ben and Jerry's approaches you and says, we're giving you a flavor.
Okay.
What's in it and what's it called?
What's in it and what's it called? All right. There's definitely peanut butter in this. There's so many peanut butter ice creams out there, though. Let's think outside the box here.
Think outside the box.
Yeah. Let's call it bean soup.
Beans.
And there is little coffee beans covered in chocolate with a little bit of peanut butter.
Okay.
Tiniest little
That
bit of
sounds
peanut
good.
butter. Yeah. And maybe some like vanilla.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm for it. I'd buy that one.
Bean soup.
Okay. What is your go-to uplifting recovery song?
I'm fanboying right now because I'm currently obsessing over the entire Nolo album. I hate to bring that up in here because everybody's a fan.
We're Nolo adjacent.
Yeah, we are Nolo adjacent. But this summer that album has been on repeat. I think Appetites. Is it Appetites?
Yeah.
Is my current recovery song.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Love the boys.
Yeah.
They just got back from tour.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Yeah. Now I'm embarrassed.
All right. And final question. What's the secret?
What's the secret? Take a deep breath and to live in the light.
Wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
What is the secret? Is it
according to Max Fisher from the movie Rushmore?
Okay,
it's find what you love and do it forever.
Oh well,
or for the rest of your life.
Find what you love. Well, then I found myself, and then I'm doing myself forever. Right?
Yeah, man, it's such a pleasure to have you on. You're such an awesome guy. I'm glad we've become friends.
Yeah,
and we'll hang out more, and we'll make Austin weird again. You know, keep it weird.
Keep it weird.
Yeah,
It's
in
the best way.
It's plenty weird.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. All right, man. Well, like Joseph says, 1,000 ways in, 1,000 ways out, and we hope you find yours.